In September 1948, there was a rather unusual court case in Munich involving the family of Eva Braun. The Nuremberg-based tabloid Wochenend started publishing excerpts from what it claimed was the diary of Eva Braun on a weekly basis as from the 3rd of September 1948. The Vienna-based Welt, Abend had earlier published excerpts from the same diaries. As you can imagine, this sold quite well. During the war, even people close to Hitler did not know who she was, although she had appeared in an article in Life magazine some 10 years earlier. Naturally, readers were curious to know more about the partner of the person who had caused them so much misery and were keen to buy the paper. You might not be able to find a copy of Welt am Abend or Wochenend from 1948, but you can find a copy of the book published in 2000, translated into English, and buy it on the internet, marketed as though it were the real diary of Eva Braun. In it, you will learn about Hitler's first sexual encounter with a Viennese prostitute on his 17th birthday in 1906, how he had an admirer of Eva murdered, that Hitler asked Eva to wear deerskin underwear, that the Fuhrer was an expert on skin creams, and that Eva suspected Leni Riefenstahl was having an affair with her partner, the dictator. Is she now doing the nude dances downstairs that people keep talking about? Eva allegedly wrote. There are all sorts of other revelations of the type that tabloids love, but for them you'll have to read the purported diary. Within a few days, the Braun family, together with Leni Riefenstahl, saw the lawyers from the Olympia Verlag, which published Wochenend, in a court in Munich. Not only had Leni Riefenstahl apparently never danced naked before Hitler, but it seems as though many of the other details were false as well. The courts then worked quicker than they do now. Many potential witnesses were unable to attend court as they were then either dead, locked up, or too far from Munich. However, Hitler's secretary Traudl Junge gave evidence, and his former driver, Erich Kempke, was able to inform the court that, contrary to the information in the diary that Hitler did not like to wash and would only wash his feet, in fact he would insist on a hot bath immediately after a long drive. On the 10th of September 1948, the court issued an injunction. The document was a forgery, and if it were to be published, then it must be clearly stated that the diary is not factual. The book, at least the marketing for the book, purporting to be the diary of Eva Braun, as I found on the internet, does not have this. It's marketing it as though it were the real thing. The diary had come from Louis Trenker, a well-known South Tyrolean mountaineer and filmmaker. In 1944, he claimed Eva Braun had handed him the 96-page typewritten unsigned diary in the Grand Hotel in Kitzbühel in Austria. Trenker claimed to have known both Hitler and Eva quite well. Goebbels mentioned him at least twice in his diaries. The first time was on the 19th of September 1933 when he watched one of Trenker's films with Hitler, and then he was full of admiration. The second comment was very negative, referring to him as a foreigner who needed to be ignored and then dealt with. Louis Trenker had Italian nationality, as South Tyrol was in Italy following the border changes after the First World War. Eva Braun had been in the Grand Hotel in Kitzbühel, but that was in 1942, the hotel was able to confirm. Furthermore, whereas she did know Louis Trenker, she found him obnoxious, and so was not the sort of person she would give a diary to. Those were the words of her mother. And why would she give a diary to someone in 1944 when, even as late as her time in the Berlin bunker, she still believed that the war could be won? Louis Trenker said that Eva Braun had given him the diary in a sealed envelope which was opened in front of a notary in Bolzano, Italy in 1945. It seems as though he attempted to sell it in Hollywood in 1946. He also offered it to publishers in the United States, but none took it. However, it was published in France and Italy in 1948, then in the United Kingdom and the Netherlands in 1949. Louis Trenker could have written it himself or had it written. As a filmmaker, he would have found it difficult to get work in the immediate post-war period. However, he did have contacts, and perhaps he tried them to get a film made around the life of Eva Braun. In 1976, he claimed that he wanted to know nothing more of the diary. He said that he'd never published it and the press had published it against his will. Whereas this diary is a forgery, and of that there's absolutely no doubt, Eva Braun did keep a diary. But the diary of Eva Braun has been lost. It could have been destroyed, or it may turn up one day in the future. In a letter that she wrote to her sister whilst in the bunker, she did request that her private correspondence with Hitler be destroyed, so maybe the diary went too. However, 22 pages of handwritten entries have survived. The diary began on the 6th of February 1935, which was her 23rd birthday, and end on the 28th of May 1935, just before she made a suicide attempt, which may have been more of a cry for help than anything else. Her sister Ilse had torn the diary pages from the original diary after discovering the suicide attempt. She kept these pages for a while and later returned them to her sister, and then these pages were kept on the Obersalzberg. So it would seem that the diary that she kept regularly was separate from these pages. These individual pages were not destroyed, but hidden together with other private items belonging to Eva Braun's family. They were found by intelligence officials from the 3rd US Army and today are in the collection of the National Archives in Washington. So, if you'd like to know more about the diary of Eva Braun, then you're going to have to listen to part 2, where the whole diary will be read out to you. Thank you very much for listening, and there's lots more of stuff related to the Third Reich on my channel. So if you subscribe, then you'll know when I publish things.